It's good to be here with all of you. And Alex, thanks for your ongoing support.
I'm not trusting Troy here. You're being too nice. What's going on, Troy? What are you going to spring on me? Are you and Brian getting divorced?
Maybe. On that note, let's begin. Welcome to People vs. Algorithms. We're going to unpack media, technology, culture, money. Did I say culture? Lots of other things.
It is culture, yeah.
Alex Schleifer is here with us, as is Troy Young. Welcome, guys.
It's good to be here.
Troy, you didn't say anything.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, well, there's that's what there's three dudes on the podcast. That's how people identify our voices.
It's good to be here, Brian.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
great.
That's just how that's how
Just
podcasts
fake
go.
it.
I'm doing this from Marrakesh, which is my first time ever in Morocco. Pretty great. I like Marrakesh. I know Troy has strong feelings otherwise, or maybe he just thinks it's middling. But I like Riyadh's. I like the idea of Riyadh's. It's like the facade looks like just some regular place, kind of dusty, and then you go inside and it's like an oasis. It's wonderful. And I like the chaos in these kinds of cities. I wouldn't want to live in
So many
it,
scooters.
I like that
crazy crazy scooter drivers. I have nothing against Marrakesh.
And
for the
how
record.
you cross
Rather
the
than
street.
I have no issue with Marrakesh. I just don't think it's a place
food.
you go
Well,
for
you
that
didn't
long.
like the food.
And the food's not good. Food's terrible.
Well, I'm not here for a month. I'm here for 4 days. Anyway, I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Getting across the street it's a chore. I got to be honest with you.
Are you
I had a
running?
taxi driver.
Are you jogging?
I didn't do any running. Although I think there's places to do it early enough. The souk is the main thing I want to just talk about in the opening, because these places, they have a Medina, they have a souk, and the souk is the marketplace, and we talk about marketplaces all the time here. And this souk's been going on since the 11th century, because Marrakesh is like between sort of West Africa and the Mediterranean. And so before they did the Atlantic trade, all the caravans and whatnot came here. And it still kind of has like a purpose. I don't like preserved European old towns. I feel like I'm in Disneyland, But here, it's still alive. And
are you about to say the
very
souk
terrifying.
is a good metaphor for the internet, Brian?
I think
chaotic.
it is. I think it is chaotic.
Scammers, deals.
It's full of counterfeits. There's snake charmers. That would be Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
There's constant aggressive marketing, which I know Alex loves. There's a lot
And
of
monkeys.
overlays
There's
here.
monkeys, which is something I like.
There
about
are
the
monkeys
souk.
that are a little bit alarming. I know Alex.
Alex had a monkey growing up. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but
anecdote?
like you had like a real these are monkeys that are. I mean, they have like a chain on them.
Whose monkey was it, Alex? Was it your mother's monkey?
It was a family monkey. You can't really own a monkey. I mean, that's the truth, right? But
Why not?
Because they won't let you.
The one monkey I saw was wearing a diaper, which I was like, okay, that's a monkey I might want to approach rather than a monkey without a diaper. And then there was a monkey in a dress too. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. A lot of dead ends too.
Hey,
So,
Alex, did your monkey wear diapers?
Yes, in the house.
In the house. Yeah.
yeah.
They're not good pets. Just I mean, I don't know. I'm sure we'll get PVA listeners that are lifelong monkey pet owners that will disagree. But
What was your monkey's
wouldn't
name,
recommend
Alex?
it. I don't even remember. I hated that fucking thing.
You just like the monkey.
No, I love pets. I mean, it wasn't his fault. It was a rescue monkey. I mean, I don't know what he went through. Probably had some sort of trauma.
Did he ever
was
throw-
probably
did
in
he-
the souk earning
did
a
he-
living.
Did he throw feces at you?
No, he didn't do the poop throwing thing, but he would definitely jump on something that looked like it was precious, look at you in the eye and start peeing on it. And peeing like a little man, like a little person standing up.
I have a brother like that.
So it's very disconcerting.
Someone in our group had the monkey on her head. That was a move I would not do.
Had a boss like that.
It was the monkey was standing on her head.
All right. Well,
It's not worth it. It's not worth the Instagram. Troy, give us an update on your vibe coding projects. We've got RingRing is out in the wild. Everyone should sign up. Let's start with RingRing, and then we'll get on to the more exciting product, which is Field Notes. Give us the update. Where are they? What should the people know?
I'm excited about Field Notes, Brian, as you know. RingRing was is gathering, phone numbers, and we're waiting for a few approvals with our mobile providers. But Field Notes came out of a conversation with you, Brian, and I think it's an interesting idea. And you said, I don't really care about aggregating a bunch of feeds together. I have my own way of getting information. But what I would like is a place where I can dump my takes, thoughts, links, ideas, etc. And Field Notes was born. And really what it is a place that, I guess, augments or replaces our group chat and creates ways to invite other people in to contribute. And then it can be exposed to people that care to see what goes into the making of the sausage, the proverbial sausage. So it's a custom Twitter of sorts for our group. And I think also a media product in its own right. So it's kind of like our feed of what we're looking at. And it's easy to administer, I think, because all you have to do is text information in and it kind of organizes it for you. So it's cool. I like it a lot.
Okay, so explain. So you can text in. I mean, I know because I use it, but I'm trying to draw you out. You text basically content, whether it's video, photos, screenshots, whatever, little notes, links.
Yes.
And then it is in a central repository that has a feed.
Correct.
And people can comment.
I mean, for the audio listeners, if this is a little confusing, it is to me too. I mean, my experience with it has only been Troy send me a text. I think it might have been in all
harangues
caps,
you.
Stop sharing links on the WhatsApp. Then sends me a text number. Now I'm sending all my links and takes to this text number. I don't get any feedback. I don't know what happened.
Well, the reason...
I don't know where it goes. No, I get the reason.
What? You shouldn't be this angry passive user, Alex. It's all there for you.
Alex is a lurker. That's
the
his,
reason that you don't get an acknowledgement when you text something in to say, thank you, Alex, you texted that in, it's a technical limitation because I'm not allowed to send texts out currently because I don't have approval from Twilio on that, which is a long technical reason. But expect a warm embrace in the text in the future. And in the meantime, you know where to go, Alex. It's at pvanotes.com. And people can go there and they can sign up to become members. And if you were approved as a member, you would get to see our inner dialogue. You would get to see what we do to make this podcast. And it's really just exchanging things that we see and putting those into a structure that's easy to read. So it's a custom Twitter. But anyway, what's cool about it is I've got it processing all the different link types. So it takes in YouTube videos, it takes in Instagram posts, it takes in X stuff, and it organizes them in a nice way. It's cool. I really like it. pvanotes.com.
Yeah, like I put in, although TikTok integration is coming, correct? Because superfan Brad Robertson sent in some TikToks from Spencer Pratt, and I dumped them in there, and it didn't. But that's a perfect use case of it.
Right, but the problem with that post just annoys me a bit because I had already already sent that video in to the feed, Brian.
I don't know. When are we ready to make this? Obviously, there's still some work that needs to go in, but
I mean, PVA Notes is public, Brian. You can go and be put on the wait list immediately.
Okay.
RingRing is also accumulating phone numbers, and we're expecting to launch both of them in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. I look forward to it. I am a big believer in this. I think this is a real product. I think. Anyway, let's move on to talking about AI being a job killer. Hate to be a bummer. Coinbase this week laid off 14%. And of course, Brian Armstrong blamed AI when you know it. He did acknowledge that the crypto market is in the toilet, but he went on to say that they are building basically an AI-first organization. Fewer layers, faster decisions, no more pure managers. You got to be a player coach. AI native pods. He's talking about the sort of product pod of one, if you will. And this just adds to, I think, a lot of the anxiety around AI about is this going to lead to massive job losses or just displacement, I should say? Or on the other hand, you see evidence like, that software jobs are going up. So Alex, which is it? Is it both?
It's probably both. I mean, it's probably more than one thing. And Coinbase is definitely not super well positioned right now with the way crypto is. It's not a very exciting company right now, so valuations are going to be hit. And also, I mean, a lot of these companies, especially when they were doing well, and Coinbase was actually pretty early on, pretty lean the way they grew, I believe. But most of these companies overhired. Oftentimes that came as pressure from VCs, right? Well, one of the success metrics is how many engineers can you hire, and then you hire a bunch of engineers, and then you start hiring all the support staff to make sure that the engineers are coordinated, and then the organization grows. But I think part of the challenge, and I have a hypothesis, is that a lot of these tech companies, for all of their bluster in explaining how they were, first principle thinkers, organized their companies pretty much the same way as they were organized 50 years ago, with layered management, with a lot of project management support, operational support, things like performance reviews that were happening. I mean, you talk to anyone in Silicon Valley when it was performance review season, whatever it was at their company, which would happen, once, twice, or, sometimes 4 times a year. It would take out weeks out of people's time, just like manually inputting things into system and going through these performance reviews, individually meeting with people. I think there is an excuse, which is like, these companies were mismanaged and AI is an excuse. I think there's a genuine way that AI can reduce the teams around, especially layers of management. So the idea is probably that you're going to pressure managers to do more work, to have more direct reports, because there's less of kind of the logistical, paperwork now that AI can do a lot of this stuff for you. This is hypothetical, but I think there's some truth to that. And then it's just also, I think it's just like nobody likes firing people. Nobody likes these big organizational changes. But at the same time, if you have an excuse to do it, it makes it much easier. And I think AI is an excuse. AI is an excuse, like a business downturn is an excuse to say, hey, let's look at the way we're organized and maybe take that opportunity to do things differently.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Coinbase's shares are down 37% the last 6 months. Troy, is there signal here?
Well, I didn't get any signal there, no. What I did get is I saw Alex one day when he was working at Airbnb coming off of project or a people review season, and it was this psychotic thing that I think that Brian enforced to ruthlessly evaluate everyone in the organization and with stacked ranking and everything. And Alex was visibly upset by the process and stressed out. And he could hardly speak to me. And then I went into his office, and he was rattled in a terrible. It wasn't a particularly good hangout session. You were stressed out in those days, Alex.
Well, I mean, it feels like,
and then this comparison of tech companies to being like, having middle management and project managers and all the coordination. Of course, AI is new. AI is restructuring companies. AI is flattening companies, getting rid of managers. Jevons paradox is real. I mean, it's real in that I created 10,000 lines of code yesterday, and companies are going to need people to manage more and more and more software. People are going to instrument their companies with their own software. They're going to build tools. They're going to need engineers to manage that, because otherwise it's a rat's nest. So there's a lot of demand for developers right now, and I think that maybe that's surprising to some, but this isn't like some clean cut over to like the AI enterprise that everything is automated and there's this like orchestration layer that's managed by AI. It's going to take a long time, and in that process there's going to be a lot of demand for engineers.
I mean, I think there's a lot of people who aren't engineers that can do also transition into doing what you're doing, because I do feel like, when you're developing things that have a human interface, for example, having researchers or designers or things like that, there'll still be roles for those folks. I think there are, though, I mean, maybe it's especially in Silicon Valley, but I think it happens everywhere. There are jobs that are just the jobs that are when there's a big stand-up, often like a group meeting at the company, and there are people who are doing kind of the dirty jobs of the company, like the project managers, the operational managers, the people like managing the spreadsheets and stuff like that. They're very difficult jobs, very critical jobs, but essentially jobs that, like, when you're a 24-year-old engineer making $300,000 a year, you don't want to do any of that shit, right? So the company will say, yes, we'll hire project managers, we'll hire people to do all the dirty jobs around you. And unfortunately, I think a lot of these jobs are the ones that can be replaced very easily. It'll put a little bit more pressure on the individual to manage their own shit. But all of these people said, yeah, I'll take on, the really difficult job of managing your project, of converting this CEO like scribbled Apple Notes, into Jira tickets, like that stuff. That's a lot of jobs, and that's a lot of the
I think that you're seeing a lot of conversation about what AI is going to do to companies. And I think it's really easy to see smaller teams, fewer managers, more sort of player coaches, people that are senior that are touching the things that they're experts in, people whose competency is rewarded because they bring technical know-how or knowledge or understanding with, design skills, cultural skills, taste skills, judgment, all of that. And those people are going to do really well. But I'd argue that they've always done really well in organizations. But, you're going to see this kind of collapse of the line between idea and execution, and it's going to restructure companies. I would only say that one of the interesting things that I noticed this week is people talking about Claude and Anthropic as being this kind of modern organizational structure, which is basically Claude, whatever. It's at the heart of Anthropic, as like it is truly this kind of AI native enterprise. So it's not just like a company with an AI product. It's a company organized around AI itself, where it functions as infrastructure, coworker, operating system, memory layer, and like the kind of cultural center at the company. And 60 to 70% of the people inside of Anthropic use Claude as a fundamental part of how they do their job every day.
But let's look at what that does realistically to an organization, right? It means that because we're just talking about doing more code, but a lot of people that talk to me is just like, I don't run a company that just needs to write more code. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's because then, just Jevons paradox, right? That a lot of people talk about. And for those people who don't know, that's the idea that essentially, even though the resource, how would you explain it?
Technological progress increases the efficiency of a resource's use, but the resulting lower costs cause demand to skyrocket, leading to higher, not lower, total consumption.
If you generate more power, if you put more fiber down, whatever, technology, like the demand will just fill that up. It's not going to sit dormant over time. Now, we're wondering why Jevons paradox
But that's
is not
software.
happening.
That's software. Most people are not building software. I think what they're talking about is like, this is the coordination tax that all companies pay. Correct. And the question is whether that takes out the coordination tax. What the boss class wants is the coordination. They don't want the coordinators, right?
That's right. So I think, if Jevons paradox worked with everything, it would work with people, right? Technically, hey, you have enough people, they should be able to build more stuff, right?
What are the coordinators going to build? They're coordinators. They're going to coordinate. They coordinate.
Yeah, this is why I think the coordinators, the people who are doing the hard work of keeping things running, we're going to see organizations, like, to speak in realistic terms, where a single manager manages 50 people and 100 agent or whatever that looks like, right?
Is that possible? So I just want to get, like, what does an AI native organization then look like? You guys have run big organizations.
I think that there's lots of examples. Like, I got 2 phone calls this week about it. I'll give you one example. If you wanted to corral data and create dashboards in the past, there was a whole function that did that. It might be your data managers or your data analysts. So it might be analysts, and it might be people that are enabling those analysts. Increasingly, so AI is really good at this. You dump a bunch of documents in a folder and you build a dashboard in an hour. And increasingly, rather than going to the people that do data retrieval and organize information in a company, you're going to have an agentic layer where the CFO doesn't have to get you that report. You just get the report. And so that's going to happen a lot. Another guy called me, he said, I have 1,000 salespeople and we're all of our, closed, lost reports, all that are in, Salesforce. Why can't I have agents that organize all that information and tell a seller what to go out and do that morning? And that's going to happen. That coordination is going to happen throughout the organization. So all of those jobs relating to, basic operational tasks, organizing information, creating availability and, of that information or enabling interfaces is all going to be automated.
I think you're right, Troy. I think there is also processes like those performance reviews that I was talking about that would take weeks and weeks, which can be shrunk in 2 days. I think the real thing that is actually going to happen is, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA famously has 60 direct reports, right? He never meets with them individually unless there's a topic and et cetera. That's not because, he probably uses AI now, but that's not because that was solved with AI. It's because he's dealing with senior people that can self-manage. So the problem with an organization often is like, yes, if you only had senior people that were self-driven, you wouldn't need layers of management. The problem is you need to have a full organization in this current structure or older structure. So you need a lot of junior people. Junior people require management. That's an overhead. Then you require layering, right? What AI is actually very, very good at, is to take away all the jobs that these junior people are doing. Data input, customer support, all of these types of things. But it's also going to really mess with the pipeline of people's careers. That's one of the. And I think
let's get to that in a second, but I had a question for you around this, Alex, because I think that your friend / old boss, Brian.
We're talking about Brian Chesky from Airbnb. Chesky.
CEO. He's become
he's a guru.
A kind of, a guru and a voice on this stuff. And one of the things that he made a comment this week that I thought was interesting, that he said, we were really struggling to diversify our revenue. And we would try to add sort of incremental kind of business lines or products on the back of core Airbnb booking services. And it really failed. We really struggled to diversify. And he said, what we learned is this: make the problem as small as possible, get a small multidisciplinary team to build the next thing, focus on one market and then 10 markets and then 100 markets. So something like conversion, supporting conversion of someone who's, looking for properties and then actually books one. That's the focus of a team. And structure the org like that, where, small teams of 10 can do crazy amounts of work. And I also think you're going to see a lot of that with AI.
Yeah, because otherwise
he had a good quote. People who have lots of recurring one-on-ones are not going to survive. That's how you become a guru. You come out with those kind of pithy quotes.
He was always, the thing is he's insightful. He has a great memory. He meets a lot of smart people and is very good at connecting the dots. He's a very, very smart guy. The thing that we used to do there is just, there was this saying, do things that don't scale. So we would try to do something once that was amazing. And if we could do it once, we would figure out how to do it 10 times, then 100 times, then 1,000,000 times, right? And it sounds easier than it is, but the challenge is, and that most organizations don't see, is that if you're asking 200 people to make change, you're not only fighting kind of the market and technology and all the things you need to do to make new things happen, you're also fighting the organization. A structure of people, any structure, any system does not want to change. Any system wants to grow, right? And so if you start with let's get these 200 people looking at the future, you're running, at 10% of the speed that you would. If you tell 10 people you're making something new, you're breaking things, you're here to change things, you're going to get much further than with 200 people. That's true. And now that you can get people, yesterday, while I was in a meeting, I built a tool that would have taken us probably 10 days to build, and we would have not had the budget to build it, so we would have never built it. When you can do things like that, that's transformational. and it can apply to everything. The question is, will it apply outside of software? And I think yes, and I think it's because a lot of the low level dirty jobs, I'm talking about the kind of the dirty white collar jobs, right? The things that people don't want to do or do when they're young or do to get in the door, those are going to be replaced. And kind of the effects of that is that it is going to reduce the number of managers that are required. Individuals are going to manage more people. And so you're going to see a lot of pain in like support, HR, project management, and stuff like that. And then that's going to create a compression in the company and allow companies to run, yes, more efficiently, but it's going to be painful and messy. And it's going to happen in tech first because they're early adopters, and also software is an easier thing to scale.
And it's going to be harder. It's going to be hard to unpack the signal and the noise there because of the overhiring that has taken place. I mean,
correct.
For all the management guru status of Brian Chesky, Airbnb has not grown since, at least by market cap, since
I know since public. I left. It's probably
since, and it's grown a lot in people. So like, I don't know, where's that super app, Brian? Get on that. The Stripe guy, one of them. There's two of them. They're twins. They're hard to tell apart. Patrick Collison had said, I think this is the kind of obvious. He said, you want to be either high agency, people will be fine, or you want to be what he called like a double major. You know, you gotta be at an intersection of two things. I think that's kind of the obvious thing. Troy, I want to get what is your belief on this permanent underclass thesis? Because, this game, people get pretty apocalyptic about this. And when you look across the surveys of young people, I think it's striking to me to have a society where young people want to live in previous times versus now or in the future. That's not a good sign. And it's become a meme about entering the quote unquote permanent underclass if you don't have, capital or like, second home and shelter island and all that stuff.
What's the question, Brian?
What do you think about this permanent underclass? How do you avoid the permanent underclass, or is it just a meme that doesn't mean anything?
I think this generation's getting shafted, to be honest, and I think because the entry points are scarcer, and I think that they got shafted going to college during COVID, and they're getting shafted again. And I think that whether it's a junior developer, junior lawyer, junior banker, junior journalist, whatever, junior marketer, those jobs are all apprenticeship jobs effectively, and they're under pressure. And I think that there's going to probably need to be policy responses. I like this idea that we find a tax structure for robots. So essentially, we tax tokens. And I think that we should probably think about an apprenticeship tax credits funded by, compute tax.
Wait, that was in my notes. I came up with that. Wait. That was my idea.
Oh.
I want co-authorship at the very least. I see where this is going. I put that in the notes. This is why I don't put my stuff in the notes.
Brian, do you think actually anyone believes that Troy came up with a social utopia?
This is my policy proposal.
No, Brian, the idea
this is just like AI.
Of token tax was put in the feed yesterday by me. Yes. And we've talked about it on previous episodes.
I was in the souk.
So the idea of it funding apprenticeship programs is probably
maybe that's where how I came up with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. I think it's a problem, man. I think we're going to have to figure out how we, subsidize those kinds of roles, or maybe we don't need to, or maybe the economy will just reroute and people will find ways into organizations in a different way, because someone coming out of college that's really fluent in new tools and technologies can become a more senior contributor in an organization more quickly. Maybe that's just what happens.
Something I'm hearing a lot, not just a lot more of, is frustration among execs that people lower down are not using the AI tools because of this fear. And I think I'm still slogging through Capitalism, the book. And one of the things is that coercion is absolutely part of this story. It's going to be part of the story. So there's going to be coercion to get the workforce to use AI to the max. I think you're going to see companies cut a ton of people and say, hey, you got to use the tools. You got to do, you got to do just as much. Time for the more
I mean,
with less.
it's happening everywhere. It's that like video of those people in a factory in India with cameras on their forehead recording, the work that they're doing so that they can one day be replaced with AI. Like, I don't understand, like CEOs are so angry that young people, junior people aren't taking on AI when, in the companies, everybody's talking about how all this stuff is going to be replaced by AI. Outside, we're saying, well, there's two options. The AI companies are saying, well, there's two paths, right? Either it takes all your jobs or it destroys the planet. Like, imagine growing up in that environment. Like, it's not their fault they feel like that. They just came out of COVID, all the jobs that were told like before COVID that would be safe jobs are now said, well, nah, yeah, of course you shouldn't become an accountant or a lawyer. That's just crazy. And then meanwhile, the world has two paths. Like, they're either going to be unemployed or it's going to be destroyed. Like, I mean, it's like super nihilistic, if you pay any attention. So I think it should be doing a much better job at communicating some optimism, at least, or a sense that people don't like AI. Like the sentiment around AI is super negative, right?
I can't find people who like it in the normal world.
Yeah, except Troy. Weird.
Except for Troy. Well, Troy's not in the normal world. Let's talk about media moguls. Ted Turner died. He was young to die. Rich people shouldn't die in like that young. Rich people should die like in their 90s, if not hit 100. Rupert's going to be around until he's 110.
Rich people should die?
No. They shouldn't die. They shouldn't die before they're like.
No. I'm saying, but that's the way things go, right? Anyway, because
you're gonna lose some, I guess, just statistically.
Yeah, no.
Anyway,
But they want to live forever. Really, that's what they're trying now. Live forever. Really, that's.
Well, Ted probably smoked cigarettes because he was like a cool dude. Like, he did a lot. He like raced cars. He was, he was a yacht guy. He was, a swaggering media mogul, and we have very few of them left. I mean, Barry Diller is still around, but for the most part, we're left with like David Ellison. I don't know, he's just a nepo baby, and then we've got some others, but it's mostly just the tech guys, and they're boring.
Yeah.
Troy,
You think
is
they're
this
boring?
like the end? The tech guys.
I mean, I'm sure that he was a complicated man to have a relationship with. And he was filled with contradictions. He had his liberal causes. He had set aside, I think he's the 5th largest, or in the top 10 anyway, landholder in the U.S. And a lot of it is for conservation. He was, he liked yelling at people and, was good with the ladies. He's a super interesting guy and a huge risk taker. And, CNN, TBS, Cartoon Network, Atlanta Braves. He did a lot of stuff, and he had sort of conviction around the cable shift, which clearly made a lot of money. A conviction around how satellite he was almost bankrupt when he bought a local Atlanta station. He did have some advantages because he inherited his father's outdoor advertising company, but then he bought a local television station. When satellite gave him the opportunity to extend it to other markets, he had a new type of media platform, which he took advantage of, but he almost went bankrupt along the way. And then he became kind of mythic when he became the sailing racer. And he won he won the
America's Cup or something?
America's Cup.
Yeah.
And
Did he become mythic?
Like,
Like, does anybody even know what that is? I don't know. It seems to be.
I think
Millionaires get very excited around here when there's an America's Cup. And honestly, I
Oh,
didn't
no,
know it
I
was
think-
about boats.
No, I think Ted Turner's definitely an icon.
Yeah, but he wanted to see America's Cup. I actually know a little bit of America's Cup because I became a fan of it as a kid for some reason because we were starved for. Well, we didn't have cable, and then we got cable, and I was watching ESPN, and they didn't have enough content. I was watching ESPN like 24 hours a day, and they would have the America's Cup on, so I would watch it.
Did you ever have friends over?
Can't wait friends over. Sorry I didn't have a pet monkey.
Like, I was
No, but
saying, I
it
was
got
into
very-
a Nintendo.
So he won it before my time because it got very tech heavy, the America's Cup, but he won it in like the 70s when it was still just like a gentleman's sport off of Newport.
Yeah, but we had these guys like Ted Turner, like Barry Diller, like Rupert Murdoch, and now we have Ellison.
Yeah,
So,
stuff.
this is, he had a capital advantage and brought it to a distressed media system. But
I mean, you're talking.
where are the new, what are the new, and the new moguls are all the tech guys, right? And they're way less,
because
they're way less
where
interesting.
are the new media moguls? Where are the new telegraph moguls? Where yes.
I'm saying my point is the media moguls were more interesting than the tech moguls.
I know, but we're not going to get more media moguls. That time is gone. You're going to get a person at Apple who's the VP of Apple TV. That's the new media mogul.
Oh, God.
So
let's bring in AB real quick. I want to talk about Vox Media's next chapter. Looks like James Murdoch could he be a media mogul? I don't know. Maybe. Looks like he's going to take control of Vox, not the toxic assets, which are the website assets, right? But New York Magazine and the podcast network. What's the play?
Yeah, so he split off. He left sort of his dad's empire I guess it's now almost 8 years ago. And he has a fund and he's been accumulating assets. New York Magazine's like a great asset, but I think there's very few owners. And so if he wants to, because one of the things he owns, like the Tribeca Film Festival, he owns like a lot of cultural type media / event property. So I think New York Mag fits with that. And then the podcast stuff, I don't know if he has a broader strategy there. Maybe it was part of the transaction where if he was going to get New York Mag, he maybe got a better deal.
No.
Go ahead.
So the asset originally that was in play, sorry to one-up you on the transactional stuff, but
Appreciate
I
it.
do know a little bit about this. The asset that was in play originally was the podcast network that has grown very quickly and has some $60 million in revenue. I think roughly somewhere around 50% of it is Scott and Kara. So, but there's a number of really good podcasts inside of there, and it's a nice fast-growing asset. Originally, the idea was to spin that off, and that would have commanded really good multiples. And then I think that there was always a question about whether or not you should separate it from the underlying media asset, New York Magazine, and potentially The Verge and others that are inside of Vox. I think that James went in and his pitch was, we'll take the podcast network and New York Magazine, and then you can figure out what to do with the rest of the assets. I think that James was a good candidate because he would make the transaction simpler and take podcast network and New York Magazine. I think New York Magazine is modestly profitable, probably has $100 million in revenue, and a lot of that is subscription revenue, and it's still a really good media asset. And I think that it is something that a rich person wants to own because it has a point of view, it has editorial authority, and those assets are increasingly hard to get your hands on.
Okay. So how's this going to be valued?
What do you mean, like any asset? There's
Okay, but like I like any asset, but like what kind of valuation is it going to get?
It's going to be somewhere $300 million transaction, I would guess. I don't know what he's laughing about. But
Just in terms of like the order, as I think Vox wanted to sell everything. The reason why they started with the podcast is like, I think that's the only thing they thought they probably could sell easily. But in terms of the valuation stuff, it's...
I mean, that's true. And there was a process for the podcast assets.
Yeah.
And the process was nearing the end. So I think that this was a good option for them. But what's the question, Brian? Where do the other things go? They go to a harvester.
The glue factory. But in terms of multiples on EBITDA, New York Mag is like low double digits, and then the podcast stuff is high single digits on EBITDA.
Right.
So it's valued separately.
Okay. Low single digits. That's tough.
Low double digits, high single digits.
High single digits. Okay. Well, that's better. Have you guys seen Spencer Pratt is building buzz? He's a former reality TV star. I guess his house burned down in LA and Malibu, and now he's running for LA mayor. And he's very good at using AI generated video. He's very social media savvy. I think this is something of a pattern that we have developing. We'll see. We'll see how he does. But I do think we're going to see more insurgent candidates.
Something of a pattern, right?
Yeah, something of a pattern.
We have a reality TV president. We have a performer who's
well. I mean, Trump is unique. He's unique. I think.
Well,
you're not going to.
I mean, I think that you see different variations on the same pattern, whether it's Mondami or Zelensky or Trump or Fetterman. They're all sort of characters that live, that work inside of the modern kind of media ecosystem effectively.
And Platner, who we talked about, and he did vanquish.
But these videos are terrific. Did you see the Batman one?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, or the other animated one.
So this is just the new. Is this just the new visual communication language of politics? I guess.
Yeah, and huge trend, huge trend. I don't even every single politician is going to create these nutty AI ads.
I don't know if it changes the perspective of people because you're always just trying to get the middle to change to vote for you, right? And I feel like they're catering to the base.
That's a good point.
There's two other deals to talk about this week that are good.
Okay. What do we got?
So in this world of basically capital and AI going in after big businesses, there was a take private announced on Monday. It was a business that actually went through a SPAC a couple of years ago called Amex Business Travel. So it's not the credit card business. They basically orchestrate all B2B travel for large corporations. The private equity firm that took them private, called Long Lake Management, has only been around for 2 years. So $6 billion deal, 20 times EBITDA. And their whole thesis is using AI. They've bought in a couple other businesses so far, but they're all small. But the thesis is we're going to use AI, reduce employees, improve the margin. I think it's a 12% EBITDA margin right now. And it's just all workflow improvement. So the business today is across 140 companies, 20,000 clients. It's interesting. So it was backed by a bunch of private equity firms and venture investors who are the sort of the founding investors in Long Lake. So Thrive, GA, and then Coke Equity came in. I don't know how Coke invested, but it might be a preferred investment to take this company private. So I think this is going to happen more and more. Private equity firms.
It seems that's it. The AI thesis in private equity investments and other types of investments is going to be a huge theme, which is there's the underwriting model and there's the underwriting model plus AI. And it's how much are you willing to bet that you can, change the economics of a company with AI?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's related at all, but I'll try to make it related. GameStop is going after eBay, supposedly. And I honestly don't understand this stuff. So I just saw this sort of viral clip of the GameStop CEO, Ryan Cohen, on a Squawk Box. And he was just being asked where the money was coming from because GameStop's far smaller than eBay. And he kept saying, it's half stock, half cash. The details are on the website. They kept after it. Andrew Ross Sorkin is not an idiot, I don't think. It seemed like they were asking the right questions. He then got some do-overs in the more friendlier confines, and it seemed to make more sense. But AB, you know more about this certainly than I do. Did he not make sense? Because he certainly didn't. As a viewer, it didn't make sense what he was talking about on CNBC. Well, but then other people said, "Oh, it was a hit piece or whatever." I don't know.
If you listen to the full 15 minutes, they do ask a lot of other questions. I think the reason why he was sort of annoyed is he has a chip on his shoulder because of the coverage of GameStop historically and how they said it's going to go out of business, and he references that a few times. So Sorkin's question was fine. What's really interesting is that in order for him to actually get the deal done, he's basically going after two populations. One is the institutional shareholders to convince them to sell, because they're going to own, in the combined company, they're going to own 70+%. And then all the individual investors. So it's surprising that he wasn't more prepped for that call, because most of the time, they're not going to give you the questions at a time, but that they're going to ask the same 10 to 15 questions. So for him trying to buy this company, it was a horrible interview because he basically,
He's in sell mode. Yeah.
It's 100% sell mode. And what he needed
for the audience and for me, actually, how does little snake eat big rat?
So he kind of fucked up. So the reason why you acquire the 5% stake, as soon as you go over the 5%, you're considered an insider and you're bounded by when you can buy and sell. So the reason why people accumulate up to the 4.9 is it gives you a seat at the table, and every public company has this schedule they follow when they elect board members and they make changes to the corporate charter. Sorkin pointed out, you missed it. You missed it by a week. So there's this thread on Twitter that talks about how he's doing this to unlock some value at his own company in terms of options that he gets depending on the share price. So the fact pattern doesn't really make sense here, because he should have, if they started to accumulate stock in February, he should have come out a lot sooner so that there's a timetable. But the way that you go about it normally is you first don't publish a letter, you go talk to the company first and try to do this behind closed doors. And the second thing is you try to follow the calendar. So he should have done this a couple of weeks ago.
But you're getting into the little nitty gritty details. Tell me how a little snake eats a big rat.
Yeah, sir. You do a really good PR campaign of why under his ownership, the value of the equity will be more valuable. And I think he's done a pretty good job of cleaning up GameStop. And that's what eBay needs. They spend too much on marketing. They have too many employees. And the market that they can really grow in, collectibles, is much more valuable when you have the physical in-person validating of what the actual collectible is. And so he made that on the TBPN podcast or whatever, the live stream, he makes a much better case for why it makes sense to combine the two businesses together. But back to the reason why I was giving all the detail is the way that you do it from like a mechanics perspective is you put your own board members up, like you put your own slate of board members up. If you want to go hostile, you basically have to go and start forcing the company to do things that you want to do as a shareholder. And then you try to get the underlying shareholders to basically buy into your plan. Because like I said, they're going to own 70% of the combined company if this deal goes through. So they have to believe that he is able to increase the share price.
Yeah. I mean, in his cleanup that he did afterwards, he did go after that. I mean, he pointed out, he said there's 11,500 employees. It doesn't make sense. I could run that business from my house. It's eBay. Looks the same as it did in 1995. eBay has diversified into other businesses. It was funny because I was just the other week, I was saying, I was like, I can't believe eBay still exists. Like, I was like, I didn't know anyone used it. And then
I buy stuff on eBay.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never actually in my life bought something from eBay.
Yeah, I just bought it.
I'll leave this earth never using eBay.
It's the second biggest commerce company, I think, after Amazon.
But
yeah, there's a lot of weird things. Like he showed up with like a very basic financing letter, which is surprising. So meaning because eBay is public, you can do a lot of diligence ahead of time. So his financing is flimsy. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like he was prepared to kind of go and do this. And now it's like in the public. So
I love this narrative. The Chewy guy, develops his credibility building a DTC pet company. He then takes over a meme stock company, cleans up the P&L, and now is trying to devour eBay. What a great narrative. Good on you. Good on this guy.
This is a hero of our times, Ryan Cohen, GameStop CEO. Can we talk just a quick culture corner? The Met Gala, I didn't go to the Met Gala. I don't know if you guys did. I missed it. I was away.
Did you see Bad Bunny's outfit? It was pretty good.
I didn't see any of the outfits. But it seemed like a big storyline of this was...
Well, it wasn't an outfit. He was dressed as an elderly person, and he had all the makeup and the gray hair to match.
Oh, really?
It's pretty good, yeah.
Okay. It's good. Costume. Was that tech what is invading the Met Gala?
They called it the Tech Gala.
Yeah. Although Jeff Bezos stayed away and Mark Zuckerberg was not there. But it does, look, taste washing is now in the vernacular. And I also noted that Devil Wears Prada 2 came out, which I have not yet seen. I don't know if you guys have. But, the villain is a tech guy, which I think we're going to see a lot. And I think the cultural sector is going to lean into tech as the villain and try to shape the narrative that way.
Maybe, although, patronage has always been about power buying proximity to culture, right? And so we saw that in full effect with Jeff Bezos' $10 million sponsorship of the Met Gala. And then look at who bought tables this year. I mean, it's crazy. OpenAI, Meta, Snap, Shopify, Amazon all had tables at the Met Gala. It's a different thing now, right? And you need that. You need like the fashion world, it's built around scarcity and taste and glamour, needs, its benefactors and, the tech people need that cool. So that's where the money's coming from.
Okay, so it's symbiosis. They each need each other, and the cultural institutions will just have to swallow their distaste.
Yeah, they're a platform. They're a reputation laundering platform.
That's fair. You know, I sat next to an artist on a plane recently, and it was like a long plane. I usually don't talk to people on planes, so probably doesn't surprise you, but he's a painter. And we were talking about like his business. And I was like, do you ever like kind of get weirded out by being like part of a money laundering? And he was like, yeah, I know, but I don't think about it too much. So that's how it goes. Should we do good product?
Well, before we do good product, I do think that tech person as villain is just an interesting thing to finish up on, because I thought you did a nice job of pointing that out. So where are we going to see that? So the villains used to be what, like Eastern European guys and Russians and oil men.
Yeah, there was a lot of Serbians get cast. Serbian actors get cast as villains very frequently.
Middle Eastern terrorists, maybe hedge
No, you
funds.
can't do. Well, that's the thing. You go with an Eastern European the last like 20 odd years because you couldn't do Middle Eastern.
So now it's an AI billionaire with a wellness routine and a god complex.
Yeah, pretty much.
So who's going to be
perfect villain?
So Sam Altman's going to be the villain in this new OpenAI movie.
Yeah, they got Andrew, another Sorkin, the social network guy, is coming out with his, I guess, AI version of it, and Sam Altman is not going to come across great. I mean, this trial, I think, in some ways, is a prelude to that, because Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, you know, they're all coming across as slime balls. Elon is surprisingly coming across the best in this trial.
I think Elon won this one.
But what is he going to get at?
Elon just said, I don't want the money. That's why, right? He said, I'm not in it for the money. But he is.
Yeah, but it's just that in Discovery, these guys look like slime balls. And, you know, if there was ever a question as to whether, you know, Sam Altman's like a dubious character, it's, I think, even clearer after the trial. And Greg Brockman looks like a doofus. Plus, it's like,
journal. I don't know why.
He should get a hair transplant. Can I say that? He should get a hair transplant. Baldness is a choice now. And you can get great like hair transplants in Turkey now. I mean, he's got tons of money, obviously, so he could get the best.
He could bring Turkey to his, you know,
exactly.
living room.
He could get literally the best hair transplant guy.
Yeah.
Let's do good product. Okay.
Good product this week. We're handing it over to you, full, beginning to end. Do the whole preamble. You know, the build up, the thing that's not the good product, but the thing that is the good product. Like, do it justice, Brian, please.
Okay, so I went to the Medina, to the souk, and
what's the difference between a Medina and a souk?
The Medina is just the old city, and then the souk, there's actually many souks, like they're overlapping marketplaces, but for all intents and purposes, you know, it's the chaos of all these different stalls, many of which are selling counterfeit goods. I was like, you know, this isn't totally my scene because I'm not much of a luxury goods guy, but I wanted to adapt, and I was like, well, I want to pick up something. And we're in there. I'm surrounded by all this Louis Vuitton stuff and Chanel and a lot of the big logo things that I don't really like. Watches, I'm not a watch guy. I'm wearing a fake Rolex. I don't think I really want to be that person. I'm just not into jewelry. I did buy one of those.
AB has a fake Rolex, fake Daytona.
No, he's got a real one.
Yeah.
I did buy one of those. I was going to wear it for the show today to try to up our YouTube game. The Jalaba. I have one of those kind of man dresses that.
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, no, it looks very. I'm going to wear it around Miami.
Do you wear underwear under it, or do you just go free?
I asked about that. Yes, you do wear underwear and sometimes pants because it doesn't have pockets, but it has little holes for you to get into your pockets. One of our friends wore it to dinner last night. So I was I was thinking about what I was gonna, and then it hit me when the guy, you know, they're good at sales, right? And the guy was like, my friend, and he showed me. He said Laura Piana. I was like, oh, and I thought of Chamath, and he's Mr. Laura Piana, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to go. And he showed me these shoes and he said, these are not, I said, oh, they're like fake Laura Piana. He goes, these are not fake. These are real fake. And by real fake, he meant that the quality was just as good as the Loro Piana. They're like moccasins. Do you know
Or they
these?
come out of the back door of the factory, right?
They come out of the back door of the same factory. These guys get it in China. I thought they were making this stuff in Morocco. Turns out that they're just bringing it from China. And what was even better is I decided to buy them. I wore them last night. They're pretty nice. They
No,
come
these are
with-
Loro Piana loafers.
Yeah, well, they're like slippers.
Are they fur lined?
They're not fur lined. No, that
Oh, they
would
don't have backs on them, right? Is that you just slip
No,
into
no,
them?
no. They're like they have backs on them, but they're kind
So
of
they're like driving
slipper-like.
shoes?
Yeah, driving shoes, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
And they come with the
Do
box.
they have a lot of branding on them?
No, I don't like branding. But
Okay.
it says branding like inside of it. But it comes with a certificate of authenticity, a fake certificate of authenticity. So I could resell them.
And what did those
On
cost?
eBay.
So are they're a good product. They're fake,
Well,
but they're real.
They're fake, but they're real, and I have a certificate of authenticity. So I can resell
Now,
them
when
on
people
eBay.
ask you, "Hey, Brian, those are nice loafers. Where'd you get those?" Are you going to lie to them, or are you going to say these are fake, real fakes?
Oh, I'm going
what
to
are you
tell them
gonna-
the story. I'm going to tell
You're
them
going
the
to
story.
tell them the story. Okay.
Yeah,
So
totally.
you're not going to try to pass them off.
No, that would be gross. I'm telling
Well,
people on a podcast.
AB would
they
do
bought
that.
fake
What sort of price
loafers.
discount did you get from his first price?
So I didn't know about that. So he wanted basically equivalent of $200, which was ridiculous. So I countered with something like about like 100, and he was like, "You're insulting me," blah 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 blah. And it was like, I'm like, they want you to go back and forth. We settled somewhere right in between. So I ended up paying him about 150, which I still
So you
think I
got you
paid
got
too much.
25% off list in the souk. That's a fail. That's a massive
Really?
fail.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yes.
need to go for like
Yeah.
70% off.
You should have said to him, "These are fake. I'll give you $20 for them." He would throw up his hands. He would be really pissed off. You would
I'm not
walk
good at
away.
this.
He would
I'm
say,
not good at-
"No, mister, come back. We'll find a good price." And you should have walked at $100. You should have paid $100.
Well, my wife knows this guy. She had already done business with this guy. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, my wife was like, "Bring the monkey." And that's when the monkey showed up.
What do you mean bring the monkey to inspect
This guy
the
went
shoes?
and this guy went and brought back a monkey. Brought back
Oh,
the guy with the
Anna
monkey.
knew that he had a monkey.
He knew that he knew a guy. She knew that he knew a guy who had the monkey. Everyone's interconnected in these marketplaces. It's like finance. You know how this goes, AB.
Shine the shoes for you, or what did the monkey do?
The monkey stood on a friend of ours' head for photographs, and then I did pose for one photo with the monkey, which I might delete.
No,
Nothing
send that.
compromising.
Can you put that up in the new field notes?
I
That's
will.
a field note.
That's a field note for anyone who wants. The monkey put its little. Do they have hands or paws? What do you consider them?
I don't know.
It rested it on my shoulder.
I think hands.
I looked at it.
I'm
going to
go with hands. I don't think they would like
they
you
don't have
calling them
thumbs.
paws. Hey, that's
All right,
a good
guys.
story, Brian. If you could, would you pick me up a pair?
Yeah. Look at this. Loro Piana.
Can I see the shoe? Hold the shoe up, please. Now, is that
Actually,
silk
it's-
screen on or stitched on the Loro Piana logo? Oh, those ones. Those are classics.
Yeah, these are good, right?
Yeah. Those are the classic Loro Piana suede slip-ons. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
And they have
all-in
the-
guys. The all-in guys wear those.
Yeah, totally. I have my Chamath shoes. I'm going to wear them with my
You got a pair
jalaba.
of those. Those are $1,000. Those shoes. They're nice.
Oh yeah. That's why
Were
he's.
you guys the
Well,
one
he
that
did
said-
show me. He did show me the difference in quality between the real fakes and the fake fakes because he sells both.
Okay, so
You know,
the
the
fake
so-
average
fakes-
Loro Piana shopper spends like $60,000 a year there. So it's like some crazy number.
Yeah, but if you look at those luxury shoppers, I saw this in Amy Odell's article. 70% of their sales are to their VIP shoppers. It's just all of these markets are whale businesses. It seems like you just make money off of a tiny. You're going to be like, no, duh, right? But whatever. I'm only 3/4 of the
I
way
wonder
through
how much of it
capitalism.
too is them buying multiples of the same thing to have at their different houses. Like it's the whales literally buying 4 pairs of shoes to have at their, because like that's a big thing in that. So you have multiple houses, like making sure you have the same stuff at the same in your different places.
we should finish on something substantive around that, AB, because it's sort of like the American economy's got these kind of two funnels. One is like for mass attention and the other one's for kind of proximity to rich people. And the ultra high net worth category is really nuts. And it's kind of like, it's big now. It's like there's a lot of rich
400,000 people have $30 million plus of household
It's a
income. When I saw that
big
statistic,
crowd.
I was like, why is anyone building a business for the other 300?
Well, and this
Americans?
class, this, high net worth class, they have their own service layer, right? They have their own kind of real estate patterns, schools, healthcare, wellness programs, travel routines. It's like, and you don't see it unless you kind of break into it and you see this is how that world operates.
Well, that's hot. That's the hot Maxine, right? Like, I mean, all of this is, it's moving from like, the luxury goods will always be around and luxury experiences, but it's moving to wellness and longevity and being able to look hot for longer. So that's the
Well, if you
economy.
find a pair of those in a size 11, 11 and a half and tan, I'll take them.
Oh yeah, they had tan. I didn't want like camel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take the tan
Yeah,
ones.
they have them.
Yeah.
I'll get a better price. I'm going to get you the fakes though.
You should
All
tell
right.
them that
This-
they're the ones you got in charge of. What was it? How cheap were the fakes? Like half?
He said he would give me the fakes for like 100, so he would have given them to me for like 70. He showed me that because like the stitching is like real. It's not. I mean, I don't know. These shoes are probably gonna fall apart like tomorrow.
What I'm struggling with is seeing them on you. I think of you
What?
more as like a sneaker guy.
No, I was dressed like Bob Iger last night.
Oh, nice. That's it for this episode of People versus Algorithms, where each week we uncover patterns shaping media, culture, and technology. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Vanya Arsenov. She always makes us a little clearer and more understandable, and we appreciate her very, very much. If you're enjoying these conversations, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps us get the word out and keeps our community growing. Remember, you can find People vs. Algorithms on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and now on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Okay, with that,
All right.
good to see you.
Thanks, guys. See you.